For hear now this tale that I was told by some that fought in the year of the near knife, when I and most that hear me were children. In that field the dwarves withstood him, and Azagal of Belagos pricked him so deep that he fled back to Angband. But here is a thorn sharper and longer than the knife of Azagal. And Turambar swept Gurthang from its sheath, and stabbed with it up above his head, and it seemed to those that looked on that a flame leapt from Turambar's hand many feet into the air. Then they gave a great cry. The black thorn of Brethil, said Turambar. Well may he fear it, for know this, it is the doom of this dragon, and all of his brood, it is said, that how great soever his armor of horn, harder than iron, below he must go with the belly of a snake. Therefore, men of Brethil, I go now to seek the belly of Glaurung, by what means I may. Who will come with me? Hey there, Tolkieneers. I'm Danny J.
And I'm Joel N.
I'm Trevor D.
And together we are, of course,
Keep on Tolkien.
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. We're glad to see that you're back again.
Back for more. You are masochists, and we love it.
Yes, if you're back for more of this is part 5 of the Children of Húrin. If you're back for more, you are a masochist.
Yeah, you're in deep.
It's basically half a season to one story.
Yeah. You're in deep.
It is, isn't it?
It really is, yeah. But yeah, we're going to continue that 100th episode celebration that, we're celebrating we're partying like it's 1999 here,
We're
guys,
deep into it now.
Yeah. We're going back and redoing the Chief Tales of the Elder Days, if you knew. We covered them, in season 1 years ago.
Or ever ago.
Back in the day at this point.
But we also, back then, had no idea what the fuck we were doing, right?
Yeah, we're pretty dumb.
Yeah, pretty dumb.
Pretty fucking stupid.
Pretty fucking, not that we're much more smart now, but we're less stupid. And today we're going to continue our coverage of the second of these tales, The Children of Húrin. Part 5 of it, in fact.
Yeah, 5 of probably 6. We'll see where that goes.
6. Yes, it's going to be 6.
It's going to be 6.
Okay, well, where did we leave off in this epic story of sadness and misfortune? So we had, the dragon had just sacked Nargothrond, right? That had went down.
Killed everybody there.
And took a nap.
Yeah, Turin, he went up to Dorloman and made a mess of things up there with his shenanigans.
Yeah, he got bemused by the dragon under a spell.
And sent him up on a wild goose chase.
Goose chase up there, and then he goes up there and he ends up inciting a failed
rebellion.
Failed rebellion
Yeah.
in his old occupied homelands. Yeah, it's very sad stuff.
And you know how how oppressive states love failed rebellions, right? They treat them very well.
Very
afterwards.
kindly, yes.
Yeah.
Very kindly.
Yeah, no burning alive people or anything
like
after
that.
that.
Ever.
No. Oh, God, no, yeah. Yeah, real good stuff. Good stuff. And then, of course, we ended, the very last thing we ended on was Morwen and Nienor finally basically deciding to head to Nargothrond against King Thingol's wishes to try and go find Turin. Because they recently heard of the sacking and they heard that he was there and they want to go try to find and see if he's alive.
Yeah.
Everyone is advising against it.
Everybody.
Again, people leaving against Thingol's wishes. Shouldn't do it. Melian tells you shouldn't do it.
Yeah, no.
Yet they do it anyway.
They do it anyway.
Well, there's one thing we want to kind of talk about before we start this story, and a lot of you may know how this story ends, but for those of you who don't, we want to throw out a big trigger warning, and that is for suicide.
Yes, up until now, the story it's been sad.
It's been sad.
But we've been trying to make light of it, and we're doing things like deep sea facts and things. But this episode is about to get pretty serious,
right?
And we really wanted to throw out a serious disclaimer. Yeah.
So today, like we said, we're going to be doing the conclusion of a tragedy. This is a famous tragedy, right? It's going to be very sad and somewhat disturbing. And we thought the right thing to do would just be throw up a trigger warning, suicide, right at the beginning. Mm-hmm. And we also want to admit that tragedies can sometimes romanticize suicide, and we definitely do not want to do that. And we take this kind of thing very seriously here at KOT.
Yeah, we've all been affected in our lives by close ones
Oh yeah.
having committed suicide. So
Yeah.
it is something
Yeah.
that we take seriously. So we wanted to start by giving off that warning. And in case anyone out there is having trouble or having some troubling thoughts, we just wanted to throw out the hotline for the suicide and crisis. That's 988, just like 911, but
Yeah.
instead it's 988.
3 digits. That's all.
You can call or text. They're there anytime, night or day,
Yeah.
anywhere in the world. That's international.
Yeah. So check that out. Please do. We just wanted to touch on it because it's something that we take very seriously. So
And we take you guys seriously.
yes, we do. We cherish you guys.
But with that business out of the way, let's dive right into this
Yes.
epic tragedy.
Oh, here we go. So much more sadness. And
So today we're going to be closing off the narrative, right? This is going to be
Right.
the end of the story.
this is going to be the end of the narrative of the Children of Húrin. Yes.
And also a little extra.
And a little extra.
and a fun epilogue.
because the curse of Morgoth just keeps
It
kind of
pervades.
It lingers
trailing on.
for a
It
bit.
lingers.
Yes.
Yeah. So, hold on to your butts. Here we go.
Ooh.
Let's dive into it. So let's start off with Nienor and where we left them off.
Yeah. So Mablung, he had agreed to lead Nienor and Morwen to the ruins of Nargothrond, right? He does not want to do this, but remember they had crossed over the river at the Twilight Mirrors, and now they are going toward Nargothrond. He pleads with them every fucking step of the way, like, hey, we can always turn around right now and go home to Doriath. But they say no.
yeah,
And
stubborn as they are.
stubborn, and they press on.
Yeah, the ladies, they just refuse. They want to keep going. And eventually Mablung puts his foot down and he says that the elves, they won't go any further. They won't go any further than Amon Ethir. They will
Well,
stop
the
there.
ladies won't be allowed to go any further than that. So basically,
Oh,
what
I
he's
see.
right. So he says, "I'm going to go ahead and go look for Turin in the ruins, and you guys are going to stay on this outlying hill because it's safer here."
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, we'll go ahead. You chill here. Right?
Right. Yeah, and this Amon Ethir, it means spy hill in Sindarin, and it was a mound raised by Felagund to watch over the entrance of Nargothrond. Yeah, so it's like, because remember, it used to be secret and shit, so it's like a
Right.
little kind of hidden fortress out there.
Or spying.
Hidden Fortress,
I like
the
it.
film, right? Yeah.
So the ladies stay under guard here at Amon Ethir while Mablung checks out Nargothrond itself. And, when he gets there, everything is quiet and it's deserted.
Of course.
Right? The dragon has been here. And they proceed as far as the bridge when said dragon Glaurung issues from the doors of Felagund. And he lets out surprise! Here's a blast of fire. And he goes into Narog and creates a huge cloud of steam that rises and fills the air.
Yes, and it stank.
And it stank.
And they mention it stinks, you guys.
Because dragons are gross.
They're gross.
Not very
Exactly.
hygienic, you know?
Yeah, and all the elves, they flee back to Amon Ethir because, the stinky vapor is
well,
arising.
and the dragon's out.
Yeah, and the
about.
dragon's out. They're like, fuck that. Except who? Our good guy,
Mablung. The heavy-handed.
The heavy-handed, yo. He waits for the dragon to pass over his head, like a champion. And he crosses the river and continues to search for Turin. What a guy.
What a guy. Stand-up guy.
Love you, Mablung.
He's going to have a hard time coming back, though.
Yeah. But back at Amon Ethir, the guards, they see the dragon issue, and they try to, get out of there quick. But the vapors, they rise up too fast. And then all hell breaks loose. Why don't you tell us what happens, Joel?
Yeah, so it's a mess. The horses start freaking out. This vapor is very stinky. Everyone's upset.
It's smelly.
And everyone scatters, and there's complete confusion. Morwen and Nienor are separated, and Morwen's horse just runs off and disappears in the fog. Nienor is thrown from her horse, and she tries to go back up the hill on foot. But when she gets to the summit and she peeks through the fog, what does she see but the big ol' head of Glaurung?
Glaurung.
Face to face.
She's literally, she pokes her head through the fog and is, bam, face to face with a friggin' dragon.
It's just like, sup.
Terrifying, yeah. And they do something that you're never supposed to do with a dragon if you know anything about dragon lore from KOT, right? And they have a conversation. Never.
Dangerous.
Yeah, it's treacherous to even speak with them because they're smart and very fucking evil.
Well, and there's usually magic in their voice and
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah,
They can
it's
usually
enchanted.
put spells on you by talking to you and shit. It's crazy.
When if you're face to face, you're probably going to look in their eyes, and we all know what happens when you look in a
They're
dragon's
also pretty
eyes.
intimidating creatures, just in general.
Yeah, but we talk more about this like gift of gab, as it were, that dragons have in our Evil Creatures trilogy, the Dragons episode. So check that out. That's a great episode that Joel wrote, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So Glaurung, he asks Nienor what she's looking for. You know, why are you all the way out here at the ruins of Nargothrond? You know, kind of weird thing to do.
Just making small talk.
What you doing out here?
Well, and she responds, she's looking for Turin, but she thinks he might be dead. You don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Glaurung, being Glaurung, he lies to her. He tells her that Turin was supposed to protect the women and children, but he abandoned his post.
Yeah, coward.
Yeah, he dipped out.
Yeah. Yeah, they have a little bit of exchange of words, and Nienor, she tries to hold her own with the dragon, but it doesn't quite work, and she's put under Glaurung's spell, as everyone who talks to him is. We got an excerpt from the Children of Húrin, chapter 14 here, the journey of Morwen and Nienor to Nargothrond, read by Joel about this interaction.
You lie, said Nienor. The children of Hurin at least are not craven. We fear you not. Then Glaurung laughed, for so was Hurin's daughter revealed to his malice. Then you are fools, both you and your brother, said he, and your boast shall be in vain, for I am Glaurung. Then he drew her eyes into his, and her will swooned, and it seemed to her that the sun sickened, and all became dim about her, and slowly a great darkness drew down on her, and in that darkness there was emptiness. She knew nothing, and heard nothing, and remembered nothing.
Bro, is that not a good description of anesthesia? The darkness draws down on you, and there's nothing. There's emptiness. You
Like
know
when you
nothing,
get-
hear
like
nothing.
when
and
you get
remember
put
nothing.
under?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's just that like you can't. No matter what you do, it's just.
For a second, I thought you were talking about amnesia, but no, you're
No,
talking
anesthesia.
about being
Yeah.
put under.
Yeah, being put under. Yeah, that's what it reminded me of when you see, hear, and know nothing.
Yeah, I always love that because I've been put under one or two times for a couple different things, and they always put the little mask on you, and they're like, "Okay, start counting backwards." I'm like, "Oh,
It's an experience. Yeah, you're
no
like,
problem.
I'm gonna
I can do
count
that.
all the way back, and then I'm gonna try to be cool and
And you're
ask
like-
them if I should start over." And I'm like, "Okay,
4,
10, 9."
Yeah.
Then you're just out.
You're outsies. There's nothing you can do. Actually, the drugs are designed to do that, guys.
Yeah, it's designed. They
You
take your
can't-
blood. They take your blood ahead of time for a reason.
You can't fight it. No matter how much practice you have doing drugs, it won't. You can't cut it. You know.
You do at least remember things once you come back too.
Yeah.
Unlike Nienor here.
She's
No, this is a little different.
Yeah, it kind of is. It's a madness, really, that kind of takes her.
Kind of empties her out. In a way.
Yeah, really. Let's get back to the ruins proper of Nargothrond. Mablung is over there, and he is giving up the search. Right, he's there's no sign of Turin or anything alive. Actually,
Yeah, it's barren now.
yeah, completely vacuous, as it were. Right.
We've got an excerpt about this from Chapter 14, The Journey of Morwen and Nienor to Nargothrond, read by Trevor.
Long Mablung explored the halls of Nargothrond, as well he might for the darkness and the stench, but he found no living thing there. Nothing stirred among the bones, and none answered his cries. At last, being oppressed by the horror of the place, and fearing the return of Glaurung, he came back to the doors.
So just as Mablung has given up on his search for Turin, this is when he sees the dragon over on the top of the hill on Amenethir.
Yeah, you know where you left the people that you're supposed to be protecting? Back there. That's where the dragon is.
And he's like, oh, shit.
Must not be that far away, right?
No, it's it's like an outpost. So I'm assuming it's maybe like 500 yards away.
Yeah, they said
That's
it was for spying on the front gate, so it must be within eyeshot of the front gate.
it's got to be within sight. So yeah, I would say 500 yards, quarter mile, something like that. Yeah, at the most.
Definitely not far for the dragon.
Yeah, no, not too far at all, really. Yeah,
Just a stroll.
yeah. Hop, skip, and a jump, as it were.
So, yeah, he sees the dragon, and he hides as the dragon passes back over top.
Mm-hmm. And hey, you guys remember back in the Halloween special just a few episodes ago? I mean, it was a few episodes ago now. But you remember our buddy Joe? He said that he read somewhere online that Glaurung can speak with Morgoth's voice, right?
I remember that coming up in that episode.
Yeah, and we weren't sure if that was canon or where that had come up. And I actually think I found it, what it's referring to. And we got a little bit here. You want to read it, Trev?
Sure, let's do it. But he turned before he went in and looked back eastward, and there came from him the laughter of Morgoth, dim but horrible, as an echo of malice out of the black depths far away.
Interesting,
That's pretty
right?
cool. That's pretty cool.
Pretty cool. So I don't know if that's like figurative or literal, right? Like, is it literally the voice of Morgoth? It kind of, from what it seems, says it kind of seems to be the literal voice of Morgoth laughing, right?
It would kind of be funny to see a dragon like having somebody else's voice projected out
Funny,
of it.
yeah. Especially if he had like, what if he had like a real weird, like wheezy type laugh, like,
Oh, I know that laugh. That's Morgoth.
that's Morgoth. He smokes like 3 packs a day, dude.
So as the dragon re-enters Nargothrond, Mablung is still down below in that riverbed.
Mm-hmm.
So as Glaurung passes over top, he actually addresses Mablung directly.
Yeah, Mablung, you think you're being slick, but no, the dragon only lets people live. Like,
right,
you know what I mean? Like,
Mablung thinks he's hidden, but the dragon knows he's there.
yeah, if he wanted you dead, you'd be dead already, Mablung.
So as he's passing overhead, he says directly to Mablung, "There you lie like a vole under the bank, Mablung the mighty. Ill do you run the errands of Thingol. Haste you now to the hill and see what has become of your charge."
Yeah, I love this. He's
Just taunting him.
He's literally letting him live, because he totally could have blasted his ass, right?
Yeah.
He's letting him live to just be like, hey, go look what I just made your day a whole lot worse.
Look what
Like,
I did.
Damage
check
is
that out.
already done.
Yeah. So, yeah, Mablung, he makes his way back to Amanethir, and he finds Nienor.
Yeah, and she's in a stupor, and she does not speak. It appears that she can't speak. But Mablung, he plans to get her back to Doriath anyhow. And they meet up with some of the other elves, I think 3 of them, it said. And they were separated from at Amonethir when the vapor, rose.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And they were like, all right, let's get the fuck back to Doriath. So they try to go back to Doriath.
Yeah, but one night on the way, they're assailed by orcs, and everybody gets scattered. Nienor, she runs off into the woods by herself, completely senseless. We've got an excerpt, again from Chapter 14, The Journey of Morwen and Nienor to Nargothrond, this time read by Danny.
But a strange change had come upon Nienor, and now she outran them all, flying like a deer among the trees, with her hair streaming in the wind of her speed. The orcs indeed Mablung and his companions swiftly overtook, and they slew them one and all, and hastened on. But by then Nienor had passed away like a wraith, and neither sight nor slot of her could they find, though they hunted far northward and searched for many days.
Just ran off like a deer.
She's gone.
Is this where she took off all her clothes and ran naked through the woods?
Yes, this is when that happens.
I like to think that she got faster because she took off all that weight.
Yeah.
I've been watching a lot of Dragon Ball lately. So, sorry, they all wear weighted training stuff, so she just took it all off, and now she's faster.
Oh yeah, basketball people do that too. A lot of times they'll play basketball with weights on, so they, their vert gets better.
Their vert, I
Yeah.
like it. So Mablung, he's going to return to Doriath here. He'll make it back, and he delivers the awful news to Thingol and Melian, and he's super upset with himself about it too. Right, but the king and queen are like, okay, no, it's we get it, we commend you for your valor. And
No, they literally like, we asked you to bring tidings. That's it. Like you did your best with what these people are stubborn, basically. Like,
yeah, you can only do so much.
You did your best. Thank you, Mablung. But yeah, Mablung, regardless of that, Mablung and his homies, they set out from Doriath to find any trace of Morwen and Nienor in the wild they can. And they're at it for quite some time. And we got a quote from Children of Húrin, chapter 14 here, read by Joel.
For not only was Nienor now run witless in the wild, but Morwen also was lost. Neither then nor after did any certain news of her fate come to Doriath or to Dorloman. Nonetheless, Mablung would not rest, and with a small company he went into the wild, and for 3 years he wandered far, from arid Wethrin even to the mouths of Sirion, seeking for sign or tidings of the lost.
It's such a long time.
3 years. I mean,
Yeah.
he's committed.
Well, yeah, I mean, he feels responsible, you know what I mean? And she's taking responsibility,
You feel so bad for him.
Yeah. Mablung's quite a guy. I like Mablung. He doesn't get what he deserves. Well, nobody in this story fucking gets what they deserve,
I don't know, Turin kind of...
Well,
Debatable.
arguable.
I mean,
Yeah.
he's kind of cursed.
Yeah, it's not really his fault at all.
I guess.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about Nienor and her madness.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, she runs far and fast, ripping off all of her clothes as she runs, like Trev said. And I was just thinking, when I was thinking of her running away, ripping off her clothes, I was thinking that part in Forrest Gump when he's running and like the
Oh, the leg braces?
And the leg braces fall off, and he just goes, I was running. Yeah, I love that. Great film. Check out Forrest Gump.
KOT endorsement.
Yeah.
So eventually the initial fear of the attack wore off, and Nienor came back to her senses. But she was completely wiped of her memory, and she didn't even have the ability to speak. Like, she literally lost everything that she knew. And she falls down among the ferns in the woods there and just sleeps.
Sleep it off, you know?
And when she wakes up in the morning, she kind of regroups. And we've got an excerpt about this from chapter 15, Nienor and Brethil, read by Trevor.
In the morning she woke, and rejoiced in the light as one first called to life. And all things that she saw seemed to her new and strange, and she had no names for them. For behind her lay only an empty darkness, through which came no memory of anything she had ever known, nor any echo of any word. A shadow of fear only she remembered.
Yeah, she's kind of born again in a sense. This is her first morning, right? Like,
yeah, very much so.
Everything is new.
Not even to have names for things. That's
weird, right?
That's I can't imagine it.
Yeah, Nienor, even though she has, zero frame of reference for pretty much anything, she continues her journey to wherever the fuck she's trying to go, and she meets the river Taglin.
So she follows the stream down into the eaves of the forest of Brethil, and she crossed the river and came to a small mound on the western borders of the forest of Brethil there, and she goes and throws herself down on that mound in exhaustion and just weeps.
Right, and of course, in dramatic storytelling fashion, it begins to rain hard, and there's flashes of lightning everywhere. And in case you're wondering, yeah, this mound just so happens to be Houdanelith, the grave of Finduilas, right?
Kind of ironic, maybe? A little bit?
Yeah, a little bit of bitter irony, yeah.
But by chance passing nearby, there's a group of Halidin from Brethil. And, they just come back from a sortie with some orcs, and they were going to cross the Taglin, and they sought shelter near Houdanelith.
Yeah, they had a little, lodge there where they kind of regroup after crossing the river. But the men were led by none other than who?
Turin!
Turin friggin' Turambar, right? And as they pass near the mound, lightning illuminates the sky, and Turin looks away and covers his face because he thought he saw the wraith of Finduilas upon the mound.
That's his PTSD kicking in.
Yeah, dude.
Because he still hears her screams or whatever, right?
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. And one of Turin's men goes over there to check it out, and there actually is a very real and very naked woman lying on the ground.
At this point, she's more or less unconscious when Turin comes up, and he covers her with his cloak, because she's naked. And he takes her nearby to their hunter's lodge. And she seems to respond to Turin's presence.
Yeah.
Got an excerpt from chapter 15, Nienor and Brethil, read by Danny here.
There they lit a fire and wrapped coverlets about her, and she opened her eyes and looked upon them. And when her glance fell on Turambar, a light came in her face, and she put out a hand towards him, for it seemed to her that she had found at last something that she had sought in the darkness, and she was comforted. But Turambar took her hand and smiled and said, Now, lady, will you not tell us your name and your kin, and what evil has befallen you? Then she shook her head and said nothing, but began to weep, and they troubled her no more.
Really a sad scene.
Yeah, he's like, tell us what happened. Who are you? And she can't even tell him.
She can't even form words.
No.
So Turin, he does eventually continue to try to find out more information from her, but to no avail. She only weeps at every single question, but then Turin gives her a name. He calls her Niniel. We got an excerpt from chapter 15, Nienor and Brethil, about this very thing, read by Joel.
But I will give you a name, and call you Niniel, Maid of Tears. And at that name she looked up, and she shook her head, but said, Niniel. And that was the first word she spoke after her darkness, and it was her name among the woodmen ever after.
Yeah, so Nienor is now going to live among the Halidin with Turin.
As Niniel.
As Niniel, a totally different person.
Yay!
Unknown origin person.
Very sad names, this poor girl. First, her mom names her Morning, and then she's renamed Tear Maiden.
Yeah, what the fuck, dude?
Can't get any good names.
It's kind of like that "you are what you eat" thing, but now she is what her name is.
Jeez. Yeah.
Constantly in a sad state. Yeah. But yeah, so her being among the Halidin, right?
Yeah.
They take her back to Ethelbrandir.
Mm-hmm.
There they examine her to work to try to heal her up, she's like running through the woods and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But she was restless, and she really only calmed down when Turin was around.
Right.
Eventually she was healed physically, but she still could not speak. The old wives taught her to speak again, word by word, very painstakingly.
Right. But she was quick to learn, and she delighted in it. She really loved it. She wished to learn the names of all the living things. And so she hung out with who? Brandir, right? Brandir the Lame. We don't like to call him the Lame because it's ableist, but because he knew everything about that among the Halidin, right? Like he was the healer and the naturalist among them.
Yeah, love grew between them, but not the same kind of love, because it seemed like Niniel was actually in love with Turin.
Right.
And we've got an excerpt here from Chapter 15, Nienor and Brethil, read by Trevor.
Then Brandir grew to love her, and when she grew strong, she would lend him her arm for his lameness, and she called him brother. But to Turambar her heart was given, and only at his coming would she smile, and only when he spoke gaily would she laugh. You get friend-zoned so quickly?
Yeah, dude.
Well, it's family-zoned, I guess. She calls him brother.
Ugh.
Yeah, that's a
little worse.
Got to be painful for him. So
I mean, you should respect her ability to love you as a brother. You know what I mean?
That's true.
Friend zone is a thing of the past, right? We got to be progressive here. But anyway, Brandir, yeah, he's head over heels in love with Nienor. Sorry, not Nienor. Niniel, new person.
Yeah, however, like we said, Niniel her heart is being turned towards her brother, which is a little fucked up. And nobody knows it because they don't know each other. But as time goes on, the two spend more and more time together, and it would seem that Turin started growing those same feelings.
Finally in the winter, First Age 497, Turin asks Niniel to marry him. And Brandir, he needs to have a difficult conversation with her.
Yeah, he does.
Because he knows that she doesn't love him in the way that he would like, but he's got a really bad feeling about her wedding to Turin. Like something is off. Mm-hmm. And he tells her, he's like, you got to wait to marry this guy. Something's up. And we got a quote about this very thing here. Chapter 15, Nienor and Brethil, read by Danny.
Then Niniel was glad, but when Brandir heard of it, his heart was sick within him. And he said to her, be not in haste. Think me not unkindly if I counsel you to wait. Nothing that you do is done unkindly, she said. But why then do you give me such counsel, wise brother? Wise brother, he answered. Lame brother, rather, unloved and unlovely. And I scarce know why, yet there lies a shadow on this man, and I am afraid. There was a shadow, said Niniel, for so he told me, but he has escaped from it, even as I.
Nothing could be wronger.
Oh, they're so wrong.
Oh, it's so hard to watch too. Like it's just really sad and mildly disturbing. Just unintentional incest because they don't know it is
right. It's so disturbing. Anyway, so I had thought about this, right?
The whole Oedipus Rex thing, right?
Yeah, Oedipus Rex. There you go. We might be talking about that next week. Actually, Oedipus Rex. I had a thought about this. Perhaps both Turin and Nienor mistake the connection that they seem to have for each other with both having escaped some kind of past darkness, right? Like trauma bonding in a way, right?
Yeah.
They identify with each other and they both see each other as what they've been looking for all along. It's they're kind of projecting on each other in a way.
And if I'm not mistaken, like Turin at no point all the way up to here has had any feelings for anybody in this way.
Right. No, he's never had romantic feelings for anybody as far as we're explicitly aware. Right?
Right. Well, other than maybe his buddy.
Right. That's why I said it that way.
I guess.
That's why people argue, they do. A lot of people argue that Beleg and Turin were a little closer than
they kissed.
Than just friends. But whatever, who cares? But yeah, so this is the first at least female character that he has expressed romantic feelings for.
Yeah, how tragic for him.
Yeah. Brandir, he reveals to Niniel Turin's true name and lineage, right? But as he's telling her point blank the information she's been looking for this whole time.
Exactly what she would need to know, but
it doesn't even ring a bell.
It's empty in there.
It's empty. The dragon spell is so powerful that her mind is just completely gone. Like, it's just completely gone. And yeah, Brandir also says that if Turin goes to war again, the shadow will not fail to find him.
Boy, another prophecy? Kinda?
Yeah. Niniel initially takes Brandir's advice and she asks Turin to wait, right? Turin finds out about this and he's not chill about it. He's like, fucking Brandir, what the hell?
yeah, while you're trying to put off my wedding with my wife,
Yeah.
my awesome wife who I love so much.
Turin's
My
got to
fiance.
be. He's got to be asking himself, why do my friends keep doing this to me?
Yeah. Why does it seem like this is a bad idea? Everyone thinks this is a bad idea. I mean, that's what the House of Handor is known for, just like disregarding advice of smarter people, right?
Seems to be.
Well, Turin, he goes and talks to Niniel about this directly, and he eventually convinces her to go ahead with the marriage that coming spring. It sort of makes her a deal. And he also promises that if they wed, he will only ever take up arms again in the future if it's for a defense of their life. Otherwise, he's never going to go take up arms for any reason again. They'll live peaceful lives.
Yep, completely defensive, right? If I ever kill anybody again, it's because they're trying to kill me. You know what I mean?
You think he put it in his vows?
Yeah. I will never kill again unless I have to. But yeah, so Ninor and Turin, they're married midsummer in the year, first age 498. Ugh. I love this whole time we're just like, There's a huge feast to celebrate, put on by the woodsmen, of course. And they even give him a house to live in on Amon Obel. Good for them.
And everyone was happy.
Yeah.
Well, for a little while.
For a while. Yeah, no, this is part of the story. This is a brief interlude in the story where everyone is happy for a little while.
But it's even more tragic because their happiness
is built on a disgusting, disturbing lie.
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
It's fucked up. It's fucked up. The only happiness in their lives is not truly good.
It's false happiness.
It's false.
It's false happiness.
It's even worse than
it's
that.
It's an abomination too. It's
an abomination. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awful.
Well, there is one person who wasn't having a great time.
That's true.
I mean, of course, Brandir. He's like, he's not down for this marriage or anything that's happening.
No, he doesn't like any of it at all, really.
Got that bad feeling.
But I'm thoroughly kind of disturbed and ookied out. I don't know if you guys are.
Mm-hmm. A wee bit.
I think it's a time for our very first deep sea fact with Joe Vasky.
Yeah, I could use a little palate cleanser after this.
Yeah, a little palate cleanser. If you guys remember this. When I'm suffering from existential dread, I go to YouTube and I often turn to watching deep sea videos to calm myself down. And since Children of Húrin can be a bit of a downer, we're doing these to keep it light and do a little palate cleanse with our friend Joe Vasky. So let's go ahead and roll that deep sea fact, Ruru.
Hey comrades, this is Deep Sea Facts with Joe Vasky. I'm Joe Vasky. The deep sea is one of the most remote and inhospitable places on Earth, yet there life endures. Most deep sea creatures will never interact with humans. One of the few that rarely does is the oarfish. In fact, throughout history, oarfish have often been mistaken for sea serpents. But the strangest thing about the oarfish seems to be its ability to predict disasters. Oarfish have recently been sighted before the 2011 earthquake in Japan that resulted in the Fukushima nuclear disaster, as well as in the Philippines in 2017, just before a 6.7 magnitude earthquake. The deep sea sounds a bit like my mother-in-law's house. This is Deep Sea Facts with Joe Vasky.
That was really great, man.
I wasn't expecting that, to be honest.
Wow.
That just really lightened my heart just to hear it.
Palate cleansed.
I didn't know that. How awesome. How good.
Yeah, not only did I not know that, my palate is completely cleansed now.
Yeah, it's as if a wave has washed over me.
So let's talk a little about what happens next in the lives of Turin and Niniel. So they lived in peace for a while, and Turin didn't go to war, and they had, relative happiness, which was false, but still, it was something for them,
Ignorance is bliss in this case.
Quite literally. But eventually, Glaurung began to gather orcs once again.
Yeah, because they did have a little bit of a false peace there, and as happens in Tolkien, whenever there's a lull in war, that usually means that evil person, whoever's the evil guy at the time, is biding their time for their next huge assault.
Yeah,
right?
they're planning, right?
Right. So that's what Glaurung is doing. He's starting to gather orcs towards him, right? And he's like, we're going to go on another friggin' raid. We're going to go get Turin.
Yeah, Morgoth, his purpose at this point is to wipe out the remainder of the Friadane in the forest of Brethil.
Right, because we're down to one of 3 houses left.
Yeah, this is pretty late into the
first age here.
The first age. Yeah.
Yeah. One
People are
house
fallen.
left. Yeah. We were just talking about in review earlier how it's the Halidin that lasts the longest. And they were kind of seen as like the lesser kind of podunk house back in the day, right? They weren't super respected like the other 2 were. And
but they last the longest.
But they endure the longest.
Probably because they were good at hiding.
Well, they just chilled in the forest of Brethil pretty much the whole time,
Generally minded their own business.
And they generally, yep.
Well, in this case, the Halidin, they're led by Dorlas, and they went out to meet these orcs in battle. And of course, Turin, he didn't go because it was technically an offensive and their homes were not yet assailed. So, he's like, all right, I can't, guys.
Can't do it.
And, the Halidin get their asses kicked by the orcs. And Dorlas comes to Turin. He pleads for his help. And, Turin's going to answer the call. We got an excerpt here from Chapter 16, The Coming of Glaurung to Brethil, read by Joel.
And Dorlas came to Turambar, and showed his wounds, and he said, See, Lord, now is the time of our need come upon us, after a false peace, even as I foreboded. Did you not ask to be counted as one of our people, and no stranger? Is this peril not yours also? For our homes will not remain hidden if the orcs come further into our land. Therefore Turambar arose, and took up again his sword Gurthang, and he went to battle. And when the woodmen learned this, they were greatly heartened, and they gathered to him till he had a force of many hundreds. Then they hunted through the forest, and slew all the orcs that crept there, and hung them on the trees near the crossings of Taglin.
Damn, that's a little bit Vlad Dragul, right? With the Ottomans there. The Forest of the Impaled. You remember that from history?
Oh.
The guy that inspired Dracula, right? He alleged, I don't know if this I think this actually happened, but he was trying to scare off the Ottoman Turks, and he impaled like thousands of them on spears. And when the army came up, they looked and they were like, no, we're good. And then they left.
I mean, this seems like a pretty dark thing for the, quote, heroes of our story to be doing.
I mean, yeah, dude. They're a warlike people sometimes, these Halidin.
I'm kind of surprised that Turin didn't give himself a new name after that.
You think?
He could be Turin the Impaler right now.
Yeah.
Turin the Impaler.
Turin the Impaler. I love that.
Turin the Tree Decorator.
Yeah, the Tree Decorator. So, of course, word gets back to Glaurung that the Black Sword has come forth yet again.
Yeah, he's pissed off about this.
Yeah.
So much so that he actually stops his assault on Brethil, and he kind of backs off.
Yeah, he's doing vendetta stuff now. He's worried about, he wants to go for Turin. Yeah, Turin, now completely out in the open again, decides to accept his fate and run from his shadow no more, and he vows to kill the dragon. And we got a little quote from Turambar here, from Children of Húrin, Chapter 16, Coming of Glaurung to Brethil, read by Trev.
The die is cast. Now comes the test, in which my boast shall be made good, or fail utterly. I will flee no more. Turambar indeed I will be, and by my own will and prowess I will surmount my doom, or fall. But falling or riding, Glaurung at least I will slay.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, what an affirmation, right?
He's like, no matter what, he's going down. Even if I'm going down with him. He's determined.
Yeah, and this time here in the little lull between the dragon's assault and what seems to be gearing up for a mano-a-mano battle with the dragon, in this time, Turin basically becomes the de facto leader of Brethil. Brandir, he was not into war, like we said earlier. He was into, plants and animals and healing and shit. Cool shit, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But Turin ordered everybody, he ordered everything as he pleased, and everybody stopped listening to Brandir, all friggin' together.
I think this happened once before at another place with the same guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God damn it, Turin.
Little deja vu, right?
Yeah.
So Nienor also happens to conceive a child that spring in the year 499, which is like so joyous, but also so sadly fucked up.
You remember when we used to be at that awkward age in your like early 20s when somebody would tell you they were pregnant and you wouldn't be sure if it was a good thing or a bad thing?
Right.
And you'd be like, how do we feel about that? They'd be like, we're excited. Cool, me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Oh,
Congratulations.
Man. Congratulations.
Wow, that's great.
You never want to say congratulations to someone who's like in trouble.
Or like, what are you going to do? You know, you don't want to be that. You don't want to be like that. Like, yeah.
That sucks.
You want to match their energy. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's actually an act so evil it kind of affects her health.
Yeah, it straight up does. Yeah, check this out. We got a little tiny zerpt. But in that spring, Niniel conceived, and she became pale and wan, and all her happiness dimmed. So it's funny because like usually that's the opposite of what you say about pregnant women, right?
Yeah,
usually like, they're glowing.
Yeah, you're glowing, and usually they're pretty happy disposition when their feet aren't hurting and stuff like that, right? Like
they're not in pain.
When they're not in horrible, awful pain. Yeah, you shouldn't like you became pale and like that's not good. It's evil. It's the evil within her womb. You know what I mean?
Just sucking out all her happiness.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. It's so disturbing.
It just seems like it's not necessarily a healthy pregnancy either. Like,
right? Yeah, it doesn't seem like it.
Well, we say she conceived. Does she actually? She doesn't actually have this kid, right?
Well, we'll see. I guess. Trevor, the look on his face.
He's just like not happy.
He's like, shit.
Don't know what that means, but it's not going to be good.
I guess I'm trying to think of it as a like if they're cursed, the baby might be cursed or like not actually a baby.
You think she's going to birth like a goat or something?
It's an alien. No.
Well, let's find out.
Yeah,
we're going to get to it in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
We're finally at the end of the tale, you guys.
This is the thrilling conclusion of the Children of Húrin.
Yeah. Okay. So, in that spring, there is a huge burning across on the other side of the River Teglin.
Yeah.
And that is because Glaurung was over there stirring shit up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
getting ready.
He's starting his little getting people ready to go invade Brethil again. And one day, men came to Brandir with news that Glaurung is coming this way, like straight up right now. And it looks like he means to straight up cross the Teglin. Not good, right?
Yeah, like he is coming now.
Straight up.
They say that there's a great burning in his wake, and it's going all the way back to Nargothrond. Like it's just one massive fire following him.
Mm-hmm.
God damn. That's a lot.
Whatever's coming is bad.
Real bad.
Yeah.
Well, Turin, he knows what he's coming up against in this dragon, And with the dragon in force, it's going to be a disaster. So he tries to come up with a more solid plan.
Yeah, he's like, we can't really, because they tried that at the Battle of Tomb Halid, right? Like coming straight up against Glaurung and his orcs.
Trying to fight him with force.
You can't do that.
You can't do that. So he's like, let's think smarter, not harder.
We need tactics.
Yeah, work smarter, not harder.
Yeah, work smarter, not harder. That's what he thinks.
So, he wants a few homies to come with him to ambush the dragon instead, while he tries to cross the river at the narrow ravines of Teglin.
Yeah, on the western side of Brethil there's the River Teglin runs into some super narrow and high type cliff.
Yeah, like a deep ravine.
Yeah,
narrow but deep.
Narrow but deep. So they're going to try to assail him as he's
crossing there.
Or
they're going to try to go up from and under.
Yeah.
Well, Dorlas, man, he's the only one who volunteers.
Yep, straight up. The only one that says he'll go.
What a bro.
Dorlas.
What a good guy.
We'll see.
There's nothing good happened in this story ever.
Nothing.
I can't even give credit to Dorlas.
Nope. Dorlas, he rebukes the crowd and he throws shade at Brandir. This is he's kind of a dick move here, saying that he's the one that should be going with because he's the leader of the House of Haleth, right? Says it's kind of shameful. Turin also, this is another thing that Brandir notes, Turin does not rebuke Dorlas when he talks shit about Brandir, who's the leader, right? So he just lets it fly, and Brandir didn't like that. And eventually Hunthor, who is a kinsman of Brandir, I think they're cousins or something, they're of the same House of Haleth line, right?
Sure.
He decides to step up and go with in Brandir's place, and he kind of defends Brandir a little bit.
Does he do it out of guilt, kind of, you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Like, how dare you shame my house? I'll go.
Yeah, I think it's kind of that, yeah.
So as they set out, Niniel begs Turin not to go.
Mm-hmm.
She tells him to run away with her together, and Turin refuses, of course, and says that their place is with the Halidin here in Brethil. And Turin makes a prophecy that couldn't be more bitterly true.
Yeah, I totally forgot about this when we were it's so just word your words carefully, guys.
Think a little more, yeah. So he says, quote, "But take heart, Niniel, for I say to you, neither you nor I shall be slain by this dragon, nor by any foes of the north."
Just like word your prophecies better, dude. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, this reminds me of that film that nobody really gives enough love, in my opinion. There's it's a franchise, but the Wishmaster movies, right? Wishmaster 1 and 2 are fucking awesome movies, and this is the way it is, right? It's a djinn, like a djinn that grants wishes, but you have to be very specific in how you talk to this motherfucker, because he will grant your wish, but only technically, right?
Yeah.
Be careful what you wish for, kind of a thing.
Like, there's a girl in the right in the beginning of the film. She asks to be beautiful forever, turns her into a mannequin. What?
It's a wish that's open to interpretation.
Right. If you in any way found that amusing, you're gonna love the Wishmaster movies, because it's just chock full of shit like that. You should definitely check them out.
The kind of person you'd want a lawyer present before you make the wish.
Yes,
You need to go over this technical garbage.
I would, if you're ever talking to a djinn, definitely use a lawyer. I would agree.
bring your legal counsel.
Fucking lawyer.
Okay, so let's jump back to Turin. So, like we mentioned, he is hoping to assail Glaurung at a narrow point in the River Taglin called Cabed in Aras. It's called the Leap of the Deer because it's so narrow that deer can actually leap over it.
Yeah, apparently some Halidin hunters once saw a deer leap across as they were trying to kill it. So that's why they call it that. Yeah, they saw it. It happened once.
It's aptly named.
Yeah.
It's like how the fly got its name.
The film? The David Cronenberg
No,
film?
the insect, because it flies.
Oh, because it flies. Sure. Yeah, that's where your mind goes. Sure, yeah.
Yeah, so ultimately their plan is to sneak up to the river and then down into the ravines and just kind of wait there, hoping they're not noticed, until Glaurung shows up and tries to cross over the top and exposes his juicy belly.
That juicy belly. Well, let's do a crosscut. Let's go back to Brandir in Brethil, right?
Okay.
Meanwhile, Brandir seeks to comfort Niniel, who's increasingly upset that Turin is now gone to fight a dragon.
Yeah, she says she can't just sit and wait here, so she means to go follow Turin to go see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And she ends up getting a group of people together to go follow Turin. They all want to see what happens.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, this might be the end of all of Brethil. Let's check it out.
Might as well watch our doom.
Yeah, among them are the wives of both Hunthor and Dorlas, who went with him, so...
Right.
Niniel and her company, they set out, and they leave Brandir behind.
Yep. Well, also, Brandir's lame, so... God damn it. He shouldn't say that. Fucking, he's disabled, so it takes him a while, so...
He has a bad leg.
They leave him behind, yeah.
Yeah, so...
Rude, but whatever. I don't think he wants to go with anyway, though, honestly. He's probably tired of this bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, Turin's already gone that way. He probably wants to be rid of it all, right?
Yeah.
And, so after they leave, he addresses his people. He gets really upset, and he renounces his lordship, which is kind of, like, extreme, if you ask me. But also, he comes to the conclusion that his love for Niniel is all that he has.
Oh, that's right. He has to go.
He has to go. And we do have a nice little excerpt here about this very moment from Chapter 16, The Coming of Glaurung to Brethil, read by Danny.
Behold how I am scorned, and all of my counsel disdained. Choose you another to lead you, for here I renounce both lordship and people. Let Turambar be your lord and name, since already he has taken all of my authority. Let none seek of me ever again, either counsel or healing. And he broke his staff. And to himself he thought, now nothing is left to me, save only my love for Niniel. Therefore, where she goes, in wisdom or folly, I must go. In this dark hour, nothing can be foreseen, but it may well chance that even I could ward off some evil from her if I were nigh.
He's got to get over there and save her.
He's so in love, man.
He's got to do it.
So in love.
He grabs a short sword. He goes and gets his best crutch, And he sets out to find Niniel.
Yeah, it's funny that it specifically says he puts on a sword too, because Brandir's not known for ever carrying a sword. It's against his whole thing, right?
He's not a fighter, he's a lover.
No, he's a lover.
Probably wants to kill Turin at this point.
Maybe.
I mean, who doesn't?
Who doesn't, really? Yeah.
So, back over at the crevice, the river, the cabin in Arras, Turin and his company, they are on the last stretch of the journey, and they must cross a little narrow gorge to get to where they need to go. And Dorlas just cannot bring himself to jump across this little gorge, so he decides to stay behind.
Yep.
And only Hunter and Turin are left to scale the cliff afterwards. Can't do it.
Couldn't do it. And they
After all of his hot and brave words earlier,
oh yeah, super
now
badass.
he just kind of backs out.
Just kind of, yep.
I've changed my mind, guys.
Wimps out on him.
And they came to the cliff where Glaurung was sleeping, and they would hopefully cross, right? But as the dragon begins to move, the two companions they try to climb in position. So he's sleeping on one edge, right? And they're gonna kind of climb up underneath him and attack from below, right?
Yeah, they got to get to that belly.
That belly.
So as the dragon wakes up and begins to move, the two companions, they climb into position, and Turin nearly slips and falls, but he's saved by Hunthor.
Nice, dude. Way to go.
Good save, man.
And what do you get in your reward? What's your reward for doing that?
A thank you followed by a stone.
Yeah, so as Turin is thanking him, a stone falls and strikes Hunthor on the head, and he falls to his death in the river below.
Nice, yeah.
All at once.
Yeah, you can't help Turin with anything, dude.
And Turin is rather upset by this, but nonetheless, he's still resolved to go on alone and get the thing done. And we have a quick quote where he says, quote, "Alas, it is ill to walk in my shadow, but did I seek aid? For now you are alone, O Master of Doom, as you should have known it must be. Now conquer alone."
I love that. Love that. Now conquer alone. Love that shit. Yeah, Turin, he climbs up to the brink where Glaurung is passing over, right? He grabs a hold of some tree roots for stability, and he stabs upward into the dragon's soft, pungent underbelly.
What are you going to say? It stank
It
again?
stank. It does stink, right? He does stink, right? I don't know. I
No,
couldn't
it's
think of
true.
it right.
Yeah, dragon
He
stink.
stinks. But anyway, he stabs up into the soft underbelly, and it really fucks him up, you guys, because, Turin's a big guy, strong sword. It's not good. It's not good for that
I
dragon.
mean, it's Gorthang.
Good thing. We got a fun ass excerpt from chapter 17 of Children of Húrin. You guessed it, the death of Glaurung.
Then Turambar drew the black sword of Beleg and stabbed upwards with all the might of his arm and of his hate, and the deadly blade, long and greedy, went into the belly even to its hilts. Then Glaurung, feeling his death pang, gave forth a scream, whereat all the woods were shaken, and the watchers at Nen Girith were aghast. Turambar reeled as from a blow, and slipped down, and his sword was torn from his grasp, and clave to the belly of the dragon. For Glaurung in a great spasm bent up all his shuddering bulk and hurled it over the ravine, and there upon the further shore he writhed, screaming, lashing and coiling himself in his agony, until he had broken a great space about him, and lay there at last in a smoke and a ruin, and was still.
Hell yeah. Yeah, with the worm now seemingly dead, Turin sought to retrieve his sword. Why not? It's actually the only possession he really cares about, really, that he's ever taken with him, right?
It's his trusty blade.
Yeah, it's his trusty blade.
But when he pulls this sword out, some blood splashes on him, and it has a strange effect.
We got an excerpt about this effect from chapter 17 again, The Death of Glaurung, read by Trevor.
Therefore, going up to his foe, he set foot upon his belly, and seizing the hilts of Guathang, he put forth his strength to withdraw it. And he cried in mockery of Glaurung's words at Nargothrond, "Hail, worm of Morgoth! Well met again! Die now, and the darkness have you! Thus is Turin, son of Hurin, avenged!" Then he wrenched out the sword, and even as he did so, a spout of blood followed it, and fell upon his hand, and his flesh was burned by the venom, so that he cried in pain.
And even the blood of dragons
Yeah.
is super, super dangerous.
Yeah, it's venomous, really.
I wonder if it's hot. It's probably hot, too.
Seems like it, yeah.
Yeah, if troll blood is hot and can make metal weapon smoke, I imagine dragon blood probably is too.
Oh, yeah.
So at that, Turin passes out, and Glaurung wakes up, but he's still mortally wounded and is still dying.
Mm-hmm.
But not quite dead yet.
Not quite. One last, like the rules of horror movies from Scream, right? They always come back for one last scare.
Yeah, he's still got a game to play.
Yep.
So let's for a second here jump back to Brethil and Niniel. So Brethil eventually catches up with Niniel. He limped 5 leagues from his home on a crutch, which we had to do a little conversion so we could get some
make some heads or tails out of this.
And it's 15 miles.
15 whole miles.
That's insane. 15 miles on a crutch.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, at least it was his best crutch.
Yeah,
clearly
we did say he
clearly
took his best.
it must have been his best one.
That should be in a museum, that crutch. Jesus.
But I mean, that really just shows how much he really loves her. Truly
does. Poor guy.
Yeah, poor guy. Poor Brethil.
Yeah, when he reaches her, they get tidings that the dragon had crossed the river and Turin and his companions are all surely friggin' dead. And Brethil assumes that Glaurung will head straight for Amon Obel, and that will give them time to escape Brethil, him and Niniel, right? So this dude is like, this is how much he cares about her. He's like, oh, Amon Obel, where I live, right, and all my people live, he's gonna beeline for that. And while he's fucking that up, we're gonna escape. Like he's like, I'm gonna totally abandon my entire people and home to try to save you.
I mean, he did renounce his lordship and everything.
That's
It's
true,
not
he
like
did.
he's got anything to go back for.
He did, yeah. Turin took it from him. Yes. After some time, Niniel, she realizes that Brethil does not mean to take her to Turin, but to escape. She's like, hey, I don't think we're going the right direction here, buddy, right?
He was kind of misleading her, trying to protect her.
Right. So she just runs off and leaves Brethil by himself, right? She can obviously
Run faster.
Apparently she can run faster than anybody in the story.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
She is Sonic the Hedgehog. Yeah, she's what's that guy? Usain Bolt. Remember him?
Yeah.
He smiles as he runs. I love that. That's cool.
Yeah, so she really goes, and she runs pretty much halfway across Brethil, all the way to Kabad in Aras, that crevice where everything was happening with the dragon.
Mm-hmm.
And there she finds Turin lying unconscious by the dragon body, the body of Glaurung. And she runs to him and sees his afflicted hand. It's all fucked up and like black from the blood.
Right.
And she cleans it with her tears and rips a part of her dress to make a bandage.
That can't be sanitary.
Nah, almost like you should just leave it.
That's a lot of tears too to clean a wound.
You must be really dehydrating yourself.
She is the tear maiden, you guys.
It's true, if
guess.
anybody, the tear maiden.
She's usually guzzling Gatorade to keep her electrolytes
I gotta
up,
be able to cry.
Yeah.
Well, Turin, he didn't move or speak, and he seemed barely to be breathing, if at all. She thinks he might be dead.
Mm-hmm.
And she cries out, Turambar, come back, hear me, awake, for it is Niniel. The dragon is dead, and I am alone here by you.
Yeah. But Turin doesn't answer, but somebody does.
Ooh.
The dragon.
The dragon Glaurung.
Like we said, he wasn't quite dead yet.
Wasn't quite dead. One last scare. And with his last words, his last friggin' breath, he reveals to Niniel the true wickedness of Morgoth's curse. And the consequence of the dragon spell are laid bare. And Glaurung speaks for his last time.
We've got an excerpt about this from Chapter 17, The Death of Glaurung, read by Danny.
Hail, Nienor, daughter of Hurin. We meet again ere we end. I give you joy that you have found your brother at last, and you shall know him, a stabber in the dark, treacherous to foes, faithless to friends, and a curse unto his kin, Turin, son of Hurin. But the worst of all his deeds you shall feel in yourself. Then Nienor sat as one stunned, but Glaurung died. And with his death the veil of his malice fell from her, and all her memory grew clearer before her from day unto day. Neither did she forget any of those things that had befallen since she lay on Howden Eleth, and her body shook with horror and anguish.
Oh, my God. I can't even imagine What kind of horrible realization that must be.
Yeah, just like a mixture of just horror, disgust, and sadness.
I imagine it must have been immediately followed by lots of throwing up.
Yeah, I would have barfed right then and there.
Yeah, I would have puked.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So Brandir had finally caught up to her where they were in this scene and was resting again against a tree, and he heard everything.
All of it.
He heard all of it and was just watching the whole thing in complete horror. And Niniel stood up and spoke to Turin one last time, and she said, quote, "Farewell, O twice beloved. Ah, Turin Turambar, Turun Ambortanen, master of doom, by doom mastered. Oh, happy to be dead."
And with that, she turned and ran off. Brandir yelled for her to wait, and this actually got her attention, and she turns and responds to him. And we got a little tiny quote here. She says, "Wait," she cried, "wait. Ever that was your counsel. Would that I had heeded. But now it is too late, and now I shall wait no more upon Middle-earth."
And so Nienor continues to run away from Brandir, and finally she comes to the place called the Kabad en Haras.
Mm-hmm.
She moves over to the edge, and she says a few last words, and she ends up casting herself down to the waters of Teglin, never to be seen again.
Yeah, never seen, never heard from, and so ends. We got a little... damn, this is sad. We got a little excerpt here from the Children of Húrin, chapter 17, The Death of Glaurung.
Swiftly she came to the brink of Kabad en Aras, and there stood and looked on the loud water, crying, "Water, water, take now Niniel Nienor, daughter of Hurin. Mourning, mourning daughter of Morrowan, take me and bear me down to the sea." With that she cast herself over the brink. A flash of white swallowed in the dark chasm, a cry lost in the roaring of the river.
Roll Deep Sea Fact 2.
Hey pals, this is Deep Sea Facts with Jovasky. This is Jovasky. Other than primates and some bird species, all of Earth's most intelligent creatures live in the ocean. One of these groups are called cephalopods, which includes but is not limited to octopus species. The long-arm octopus is common in the tidal waters of Japan and Korea. In Korea, it is sometimes eaten by humans as a delicacy, always raw, and sometimes still alive. In fact, about half a dozen people each year die while trying to consume the dish, which is called sannakji. The tentacles will latch onto the person's throat, their strong grip rendering the Heimlich maneuver useless. Maybe they should try eating the short-arm octopus instead of the long-armed ones. This has been Deep Sea Facts with Joe Vasky.
Wow, thanks, Joe.
I think I needed that.
Yeah, that one really cheered me up. Thank you.
Especially after that last excerpt.
Oh my Christ.
Oh, jeez, yeah. No, this is... yeah, guys, I mean, you know, these Deep Sea Facts are for a reason, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
This shit is sad.
Gotta take you out just a little bit.
Mm-hmm. So let's get back to our boy Brandir. Poor guy.
Oh, man.
So Brandir decides that even though he did not like Turin very much, it was still his duty to go tell the people of Brethil what had happened to their captain, because he assumes Turin is, dead now as well.
Right. So he heads back to Nangirith where all the Haladin were gathered.
And along the way, he comes across Dorlas in the woods. The guy who stayed behind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the guy who turned round.
Yeah, wouldn't make the leap.
Got too scared at the last moment.
It's okay. There was
Couldn't
probably
follow through.
It's probably a second rock with his name on it.
Yeah.
God.
So they have a little interaction here, and Brandir basically puts two and two together that Dorlas had abandoned the other two and hid in the woods while all this happened.
And he realizes that if Dorlas would have brought tidings of the incident, then Nienor would have not needed to go after Turin, and she might still be alive, rather than what he just saw, her throwing herself into a chasm.
Yeah.
And he loses it. Brandir is furious, and he straight up kills Dorlas right there in the woods, on the spot.
Yeah, fuck that dude. It's funny because this is one of the only times he says, what he responds to him, he says, "I hate you, Dorlas." Like, that is a direct quote. It's very, In Tolkien, do you rarely get a sentence like that?
That direct.
That direct, right? Like, I fucking hate you, dude. He's like, as he's realizing all these things, he's like, that means she could have not ran off and all this stuff.
Right. Had
He's
you
like,
only
I
just
hate
bothered
you.
coming back to tell us.
Yeah, he realizes halfway
Christ.
through saying it that I hate you. And he's like, I hate you, Dorlas. Ugh. But anyway, Brandir's got to go back to Nengirith still, right? And address the people of Brethil. I wonder if he'll leave out that he killed Dorlas in the woods.
Oh, I bet.
So Brandir goes and tells them that the dragon and the black sword are both dead. But he also says that this is actually good tidings. And he then goes ahead and reveals that Niniel is also dead by suicide because she found out that Turin was in fact her own brother.
And now everybody else knows too.
Big gasp across the crowd.
Ugh.
He then suggests that they find Turin and bury him and just put this whole sad tale to rest. And they all make their way to Cabadinaras, where the dead dragon is and dead Turin is, and all that shit. They're going to the scene of the crime.
Scene of the crime, ground zero, right? So meanwhile, back at Cabadinaras, Turin. This is such a Greek tragedy, right? Like Turin wakes up from his swoon, right? It's like the end of Maltese Falcon, where everyone is like getting knocked out and waking up, and like that's this part of the story. So Turin wakes up from his swoon, looks down at his hand, and wonders who would wrap up my hand and then leave me on the cold ass ground.
It'd be a pretty weird thing to do.
He's pretty confused. Clearly,
Yeah.
somebody came and found me and tended to me, and
Yeah. So
they're
what's
gone.
going on? And they're gone. Yeah. So he gets up and he staggers around, literally, because he's not in good shape, right? The venom is still affecting him. Yeah, he's fucked up, right?
He even thanks Gorthang for its service to him, and
Yeah.
he gave the victory to Gorthang for the venom of Glaurung's blood, left the blade unharmed.
Yeah.
Which, damn, strong sword, man.
hell yeah.
Yeah. He compliments Gurthang. He's like, hell yeah, this is a good sword.
My trusty partner.
That'll do, sword. That'll do. Yeah.
So Turin turns around and decides to head back to Nengirith,
Where everybody's
where all
at.
those folks had been sitting watching.
Yeah.
And he runs into a group of people that had just set out to find his body for burial.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. And they're understandably fucking terrified, right? You're looking, could you imagine like going out to like, we got to go find our friend and bury him. And then you see that dude walking toward you. It'd be terrifying, right?
It's a ghost.
But they talk to the dude, and they eventually find out that he's not an angry spirit, and they and they turn on Brandir, and they are pissed.
Right, because Brandir thought he was dead and told them all he was dead.
Yeah, Brandir had just spun this story. Apparently, he's all lying about it all, right? Like, so yeah, Turin tries to calm them down, but Dorlas's wife says that Brandir said that Turin's death was, quote, good tidings. And then he's like, well, what the fuck?
Well, what the fuck is this about? So Turin and Brandir, they have some heated words, and this is when Brandir tells everyone there that he saw and heard what he saw and heard, and Turin is enraged. He cannot accept that any of this is true.
Yeah.
And he calls Brandir a liar.
And clubfoot.
And a clubfoot.
Yeah.
And straight up
ableist term.
just cuts him down right there with Gorthang.
Cues him with Gurthang.
So passes Brandir,
Man,
son of Handir.
he has a really awful end of his life.
It's sad.
Brandir.
He does
is a
nothing but
sad
good
character.
things for his people. He's a very peaceful man. He only loved.
All he ever
Niniel,
did was love, dude.
He was only trying to help, and he was right. The fact, after everything was said and done, the fact
was right.
that Turin had died, I mean, it was kind of good tidings for them because that meant that they probably weren't going to die.
Well, and they were out of their misery, right? Like,
Right? Yeah,
you know,
the curse is now gone as
it's
well.
over. Yeah. So, like, really, he was saying it out of love. Like, they're dead because I don't want them to suffer anymore. That's a good thing.
Mhm. It's very sad, the death of Brandir.
Yeah. And it actually terrifies all the Halidin, and they run off, right? They're like, holy shit. They've never seen Turin just kill somebody up close like that.
Let alone one of their own.
Let alone their former leader, right?
So Turin then decides to finally go back to Doriath to seek his mother and sister, whom he believes are living there safely.
Right,
waiting for
because, Brandir says that, well, that was my sister. He's like, fuck that, my sister's in Doriath, dumbass. Like, let's go see her.
him. Yeah, so now he's determined to go there and just, I guess, prove to himself that everything is okay.
Yeah, he makes his way over the crossings of the Teglin, Along his way to Doriath, he meets an old friend, Mablung.
Oh, hey.
Dude, who to run into right now, right?
Turin,
the
Mablung.
Yeah, of what they say in what's he say in Casablanca? Of all the gin joints in all the world, right? Fucking Mablung walks into mine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he greets Turin with honor. Like, he's super happy to see him alive, of course. He explains that when they heard the dragon had left to seek out Turin, that they were going to come aid him.
Yeah, they were like, when we heard you were gearing up to fuck up the dragon, we thought, hey, we're in the area, let's move in.
Let's go.
Well, Turin goes ahead and tells them that they're too late. The dragon's actually already dead. And they're like, hey, that's great.
Yeah, like, why aren't you more happy?
Yeah, why aren't we more excited about this? This is fantastic.
Turin, and then Turin literally brushes us off. He's like, yeah, I killed the dragon, whatever. But I need news of my mom and sister. And the energy leaves.
Yeah, it's like the air is sucked out of the room.
Awkward silence.
And Mablung has to step up and tell the story of how Morwen and Nienor came to Doriath, but left to look for him in Nargothrond. Ooh.
I see where this is going.
And then he told them about how they were both lost, and Nienor was bewitched by the dragon and ran off into the woods, witless, unable to speak, and naked.
So now, with this extra information, Turin is now beginning to connect the dots, and he's beginning to understand, and he becomes truly distraught.
This is when Turin, I think, finally loses his mind.
This is when he, absolutely, his mind breaks. He cannot accept this as real. He runs off again, just alone, and this time he was headed back again to Kabad and Aras, where the dragon was.
Yeah, again, ground zero, right?
He's got to go back there again.
Poor Mablung he's confused, but he fears for Turin because he's obviously he says to us he's Fey, which in Tolkien means they're off their rocker.
Right,
he's mad. Crazy cuckoo.
He's gone mad.
They're cuckoos, yeah, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, right? And so he's like, okay, we need to follow him right now. But Turin is way too fast, right? He's way too fast. Gets there way ahead of Mablung and the homies. And Turin, he approaches the precipice, the leap of the deer, looks down into the water. But he says he will not defile that water in which Nienor was taken to. And he draws Gurthang, looks at the blade, and speaks to it for the last time. And we're going to let this Zerpt speak for itself, homies. And it's going to be read by Trevor, Chapter 18, Children of Húrin.
Then he drew forth his sword and said, Hail, Gurthang, iron of death. You alone now remain. But what lord or loyalty do you know, save for the hand that wields you? From no blood will you shrink. Will you take Turin Turambar? Will you slay me swiftly? And from the blade rang a cold voice in answer. Yes, I will drink your blood, that I may forget the blood of Beleg my master, and the blood of Brandir slain unjustly. I will slay you swiftly. Then Turin set the hilts upon the ground, and cast himself upon the point of Gurthang, and the black blade took his life.
So passes Turin, my favorite character. For better or worse, one of the coolest characters in Tolkien, but also one of the most highly flawed characters, right?
And one of the few, maybe if the only person, to get a response from his weapon.
Yeah.
Verbally.
Yeah, verbally. Which I was thinking of this, because I watch a lot of horror movies and stuff like that. What if this is, I've never thought this before. What if Gurthang actually did not speak to Turin? What if he had totally lost his mind at that point? Because suicide is a symptom of mental illness, right? It's the ultimate symptom, really. Mm-hmm. And he does go ahead and commit suicide, right? So he's clearly not in a rational state of mind. Maybe he heard Gurthang say what he wanted it to say.
Well, and he's had the blade for a very long time, right?
And it's his only personal possession left to him. Right?
One of his only friends, you might say.
Yeah. So Mablung and the elves and the other members of the Halidin, they all show up and they see the horror show.
Yeah,
that has
dead
just
dragon. The whole area is smashed from the dragon, and then Turin's clearly dead, having committed suicide in front of them on the ground.
Yeah,
it's very stark. A very dark scene. And they weep for the loss of Turin. It's very, very sad. The whole thing is so tragic.
Oh, yeah.
And they now have the context for it as well.
Right, which makes it even worse, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they explained to Mablung what had happened that night, because he was behind, and he became very sad, realizing his part in it all. Just a quick excerpt we got here. It says, I also have been meshed in the doom of the children of Hurin, and thus with words have slain one that I loved.
Because he feels like he almost
he was
caused
the
Turin to
one-
commit suicide by giving him news.
Information, right?
Yeah.
Information is a dangerous thing. Yeah, like he gave him the exact wrong information he needed to hear at that point.
Oh, God.
He confirmed everything for him, and he did it totally unknowingly.
Oh, but he said the thing. I've been meshed in the doom of, quote, the children of Hurin. He said the thing.
Yeah. I didn't even realize.
Even Tolkien falls to that rule.
Yep.
Got to say the thing.
But they bear up Turin, and they see that Gurthang is actually broken beneath him, right? This badass sword, right?
Yeah,
And
broke.
And this to me is, we also had Narsil breaks when its owner is slain, right? This to me is like, at least how I read it this time through the story, is symbolic of what grief can do to people, and that's a theme throughout the Children of Húrin, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a sad theme, but it's that everyone has a breaking point. Even a sword as mighty as Gurthang or a warrior as great as Turin can totally lose their battle to grief,
Yeah, it happens. And I really like that thought that the sword sort of being an analogy for his grief.
Yeah.
Because earlier in the story, too, after one of his earlier low points, when the death of his friend Beleg,
it goes blunt. Yeah, in response.
And, Turin goes a little bit mad for a while and has a lot of trouble with that, but he is ultimately able to recover it. It doesn't break him, kind of like the sword doesn't break.
The sword doesn't break
It just
either.
goes blunt.
It has to be remade, but it is still functional.
But here was too much.
Yep, it's too much. And yeah, everyone's got a breaking point. And yeah.
I said that it was like a friend to him, but I guess it was more just a part of him.
Yeah, really.
The extension of Turin Bar.
It's definitely enmeshed in the doom of the children of Hurin.
So the bystanders, they build a pyre to burn the carcass of Glaurung, because, it's a big, dying, dead dragon.
Yeah, it's
right?
also just a big, evil dragon body. Burn it,
I don't want that around. It probably stinks, too.
Yeah, I feel like that's just kind of what you should do. Yeah.
It stank.
It stank when he was alive. What do you think it smells like now?
Burn that shit.
They even built a mound where Turin fell,
and
the shards of Gurthang, they're placed beside him.
Right, in honor.
Yeah, the minstrels of the elves that were there and men made laments for the children of Hurin, and they raised in that spot a large stone inscribed with the ruins of Doriath that they called the Stone of the Hapless. And on it said, Turin Bar Dagnir Glaurunga, which means Turin, Master of Doom, Slayer of Glaurung, and beneath it, simply Turin and Niniel. A somber reminder of everything that happened there.
Yeah, the children of
The
Hurin.
dead children of Hurin.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm gonna need a deep sea fact, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I could use a little pick-me-up right about now.
One to round it all off now that we're at the end.
Yeah.
I wonder what it'll be this time.
I wonder what we'll learn next. Well, take it away, Ruru. Roll Deep Sea Fact 3.
Hey, cohorts. This is Deep Sea Facts with Jovasky. I'm Jovasky. The Mariana Trench in the North Pacific Ocean is the deepest known part of the ocean. The deepest part of the trench is called Challenger Deep, which is around 11,000 meters down, which is deeper than Mount Everest is tall. While 27 humans have been to the bottom of the trench, no one has died in this pursuit. However, over 300 people have died trying to summit Mount Everest. Around 200 corpses are littered around the summit. Some are even used as landmarks for other climbers. I mean, I guess that's, I don't know. I think turn right at the pair of Uggs sticking out of the ground. I guess that's helpful. This has been Deep Sea Facts with Jovasky.
That was nice.
That was palate cleansing indeed.
Honestly, after all the crap we just went through, I really needed that.
I knew that too.
It was like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
Feeling refreshed, guys. You ready to move forward?
Well,
Because
yeah.
we're not done yet.
We're not done at all.
I know it's called the Children of Húrin.
Well, they're all dead now.
They're all dead now, but
remember the guy we started with?
Right, the story's called the Children of Hurin. So what about Hurin? Remember him?
Yeah,
he wasn't dead.
Let's get into this epic epilogue. It's funny because in the Children of Húrin novel, it doesn't go as far into what happens to Hurin after. I always thought it did, but it's you have to go to the Silmarillion for that, ironically. But yeah, in the year 500 of the First Age, Morgoth decides that keeping Hurin in Angband at this point would kind of be pointless, or he wants to at least make you think that it's now pointless.
Yeah, I mean, Hurin's a broken man at this point. He's been in Morgoth's chains for a very long time, and he's an old man now.
28 years.
Yeah, he's 59.
28 years.
Yeah,
being forced to watch everything that just happened to his kids.
Was that was longer than that the elf from earlier?
Gwindor,
right?
yeah,
Gwindor.
I think Gwindor was inside for 16 years, I think.
God, that's fucking rough. Well, we've got a excerpt here from chapter 22, The Ruin of Doriath, from the Silmarillion, read by Danny.
When therefore he judged the time to be ripe, he released Hurin from bondage, bidding him go whither he would, and he feigned that in this he was moved by pity, as for an enemy utterly defeated. But he lied, for his purpose was that Hurin should still further his hatred for elves and men ere he died.
He's not done with him
He's
yet.
not done with you, dude.
God damn it, Morgoth.
That curse isn't done yet. So Hurin first makes his way back to his homeland of Hithlum, and the Easterlings leave him alone, believing him to be some sort of, like, ghost or something out of Angband.
They see him, like, come out of Angband without anybody saying anything about it, so they assume he's, like, some kind of higher up.
Oh, they think he's like a
Right, as you would,
an honorable
right.
ranking member in Angband.
Yeah, because they don't just let homies leave Angband, right? So you're assuming this guy's no good.
One
Yeah.
does not simply walk out of Angband.
Right, exactly.
There you go.
Yes. Yeah, so everyone in Hithlum shuns the shit out of Hurin, as if he were just, Morgoth's friend, right?
Yeah, if you were in league with him.
Yeah, and Hurin, he ends up just leaving Hithlum in despair. There's no reason for him to be there, right?
Gets nothing from it.
Mm-hmm.
And he makes his way. He goes up into the mountains. He's seeking for Gondolin.
Right, because that's one of the only other things he has to hold on to. He never sold out Gondolin the whole time he was there.
That's true.
And that's what Morgoth wanted. He never sold out Gondolin, but now he's got nowhere else to go, so he figures maybe he'll go to Gondolin.
Maybe he'll go. He doesn't know really where it is, but he knows kind of the general region that it's in.
Mm-hmm.
So he comes to the foot of what's called the Ekoriath, right? And he shouts out to Turgon, and we're gonna make Trevor say it. Trevor, what's he say?
He says, Turgon, remember the fen of Serek. O Turgon, will you not hear in your hidden halls?
That's right. And all this is happening. Unfortunately, Hurin was actually being followed by a buttload of spies out of Angband. And they saw all of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they see him yelling for Turgon at a random place near
the mountains,
near the Ekoriath, right?
Yeah,
which is the general region that Gondolin is in.
It kind of seems to be like not the first time that Morgoth's like, you could go free, and then he's just like following somebody. Yeah.
So now Morgoth knows that general region and where to look for Gondolin.
Right, and this will hugely come into play in our next tale, The Fall of Gondolin. So stay tuned for that. We've highly downplayed the Gondolin stuff in this series because it comes more into play in the Fall of Gondolin series. So we've kind of just broadly touched it in the Children of Húrin series here.
It's hard because of how much these tales kind of overlap.
They overlap each other,
play into each other.
And that's why you have to listen to all of it to get the full picture.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. But Hurin now, after failing to find Gondolin or failing to be admitted into Gondolin, rather, Hurin makes his way down into Brethil because he saw all that happen.
At the crossings of the Teglin, the men there, they're afraid. They think he's a ghost, and they let him pass without issue.
We're not
touching this.
Yeah, this dude can go about his business.
And finally, Hurin, he comes to the Stone of the Hapless.
Yeah, he doesn't even look at the stone. He just puts his hand on it because it says he knows what's written there. He doesn't have to.
He's seen it before.
Yeah. And sitting next to the stone is a woman Hurin recognizes her, and we have a little real sad exchange here from the Silmarillion, chapter 22 of the Ruin of Doriath.
Sitting in the shadow of the stone, there was a woman, bent over her knees. And as Hurin stood there silent, she cast back her tattered hood and lifted her face. Gray she was and old, but suddenly her eyes looked into his, and he knew her. For though they were wild and full of fear, that light still gleamed in them that long ago had earned for her the name Eledwin, proudest and most beautiful of mortal women in the days of old. "You come at last," she said. "I have waited too long." "It was a dark road. I have come as I could," he answered. "But you are too late," said Morwen. "They are lost." "I know it," he said. "But you are not." But Morwen said, "Almost. I am spent. I shall go with the sun. Now little time is left. If you know, tell me, how did she find him?"
So, Hurin, he does about the nicest thing you could do for her in this situation, and that is nothing. He tells her nothing, says nothing else.
Spares her the stuff he knows.
Yeah,
really.
she asks him that question, how did she find him? And then he literally doesn't respond, and they just sit there in silence.
Instead, he takes her by the hand, and he embraces her, and they watch the sunset together, saying nothing. And as the sun sets, Morwen slips away and dies. Hurin closes her eyes and makes one last super sad affirmation. Quote, "She was not conquered."
That's the only solace he gets, is knowing that his wife died without knowing.
Without knowing the absolute horror that happened to her children. Hurin, he also makes a grave for Morwen at this place, now called Kabed Nearamarth, which means the leap of dreadful doom, right? In a reference to Nienor. And he carves into the stone of the hapless, quote, "Here lies also Morwen Eledwin."
So now there is a mound for Morwen, there's a mound for Turin and Nienor, and there's a mound for Finduilas somewhere.
Right.
A lot of sad yeah. mounds.
Yeah.
I mean, Sador said earlier that those in the mound are happier.
Yeah, he's referring to the big mound, of dead folks. Yeah. And interesting thing, it is actually said by a seer and minstrel of Brethil named Glaurung that spot will never change and or never be defiled by Morgoth or thrown down in any way, even though the world may change around it. And as we know, or as anyone who's ever looked at a Third Age map of Middle-earth, know that this turns out to be true. This point remains an island in the Great Sea called Tol Morwen, even to the end of the Legendarium. Wow.
Yeah, untouched.
Sadness,
it's kind of wild.
Sadness is profound, right? Like
a sadness so profound.
Yeah, that it won't even, the world changing doesn't even affect it, right?
Yeah, it leaves its mark on the world.
Yeah, rather than the other way around.
That is a somber place.
Yes.
So Hurin, utterly bereft of everything in his life, now decides to leave Brethil and go check out Nargothrond. Why not?
Why not? Yeah, Hurin actually he ends up wandering for 2 years. A lot of like reading the story, you don't really realize how long he's wandering around Beleriand for. It's from the year 500 to the year 502, and so he decides now to go from Brethil to Nargothrond. Why the fuck not, right? And Hurin, what Hurin doesn't know is that Mim, the petty dwarf, is now settled in Nargothrond and claims all the treasure and sits on it and covets it greedily all day like a piece of shit.
Like a dragon.
Yes.
So when Hurin confronts Mim, when he finally makes it there to Nargothrond, he says that Nargothrond is rightfully the property of the petty dwarves because they were the ones that originally delved it.
Yeah,
but
fair
enough.
enough.
Of course, Hurin has other plans, and he knows all about Mim from his time sitting in Angband.
Oh, yeah.
And, he knows all about what Mim did to Turin. And he did not forget it. And we've got an excerpt here about this from chapter 22 of the Silmarillion of the Ruin of Doriath, read by Trevor.
"Then you shall enjoy your inheritance no longer," said Hurin. "For I am Hurin, son of Galdor, returned out of Angband, and my son was Turin Turambar, whom you have not forgotten. And he it was that slew Glaurung the dragon, who wasted these halls where you now sit. And not unknown is it to me by whom the dragon helm of Dorloman was betrayed. Then Mime, in great fear, besought Hurin to take what he would, but to spare his life. But Hurin gave no heed to his prayer, and slew him there before the doors of Nargothrond.
What's funny about Hurin is, like, even though he's been in Angband for 28 years and he's now 59 or 60 years old, depending on what year this is, I bet he could still kick ass. Like, I bet he took Mime the fuck out. You know what I mean? Like,
I imagine it was like one stroke.
Just fuck. Oh man, I bet he really fucked up that dwarf.
And then punted him through the gates.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Goal.
Well, next, Hurin decides that he's going to go head over to Doriath. So he heads that way, he heads east, and when he hits the Twilight Meres, he meets some of the elves of Doriath, and they bring him the rest of the way over to the king.
Yeah, this isn't going to go well, you guys.
No, he's just not in a good place.
No, Hurin is, he's very distraught.
Yeah, Thingol realizes who Hurin is, and he greets him with great honor. You know, like, as you would, it's Hurin. But Hurin then does something kind of mean and pretty disrespectful to Thingol and Melian. A bit about this from chapter 22 again of the Rune of Doriath, excerpt read by Danny.
Hurin made no answer to the king, but drew forth from beneath his cloak that one thing which he had taken with him out of Nargothrond, and that was no lesser treasure than the Nauglamir, the necklace of the dwarves, that was made for Finrod Felagund long years before by the craftsmen of Nogrod and Belagos, most famed of all their work in the elder days, and prized by Finrod while he lived above all the treasures of Nargothrond. And Hurin cast it at the feet of Thingol with wild and bitter words. "Receive thou thy fee," he cried, "for thy fair keeping of my children and wife."
God, yeah, he's very bitter. Now he's coming down and blaming his friend Thingol.
Yeah, who
really only tried his best, right?
Of all the fucking people in the story to come down on, Thingol, like really? Thingol tried to do the right thing at every turn in this story.
Yeah, for once, Thingol
if you guys listen to the Baron and Luthien series, I am not a fan of Thingol in that story, right?
Right.
But in this one, he's changed, and he's chill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he does his damnedest. He tries his best.
Yeah, so of all fucking people, and like Thingol's like super sad by this, right?
I gotta be a little fair, though, because Hurin doesn't really have many other, if anybody else, that he could go and blame.
To be mad at.
Be mad at. Like, everyone else is dead.
You lash out. Yeah, you lash out
kind of
at
his last place he can lash out, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, who the fuck else is he going to talk to? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's funny, because Thingol's super sad at this because he loved Hurin's children, as his own, really, and he heavily regretted how things ended between them, and it was largely out of his control how it ended, right?
Yeah, his wife and daughter left without him wanting them to. Same with his son. They all left.
Yeah, they all left
against
of
his
their own
wishes.
volition. Yeah, and at this, Melian speaks up because she's not about to let Hurin sit here and abuse her fucking husband. Right?
Right.
He doesn't deserve this. So she says that this treatment of his friends is straight up the work of Morgoth. She's like, what you're doing is doing Morgoth's will right now.
Even still, yeah.
Yeah. And she explains that they fostered and loved Turin and Niniel, and it was not by their will that they had left or any of the bad things, that they tried to do their best at every turn. Yeah,
and these words spoke by Melian, man, they wake Hurin right up. He realizes he's being kind of an asshole here.
Yeah.
And he picks up the Nauglamir. He gives it to Thingol in earnest now, and the rage be gone. And he turns and he leaves Menegroth forever.
Mm-hmm. We've got another excerpt from the Silmarillion, chapter 22 of the Rune of Doriath, and Joel's going to read it for us.
Receive now, Lord, the gift from one who has nothing, and as a memorial of Hurin of Dorloman. For my fate is fulfilled, and the purpose of Morgoth achieved. But I am his thrall no longer. Then he turned away and passed out from the 1,000 caves, and all that saw him fell back before his face, and none sought to withstand his going, nor did any know whither he went. But it is said that Hurin would not live thereafter, being bereft of all purpose and desire, and cast himself into the sea. And so ended the mightiest of the warriors of mortal men.
Wow. Another great character lost to tragedy and losing their fight to grief, right?
What an epilogue. Like,
well, that's a hell of an epilogue to the story. I think we need a deep sea fact. What do you guys think?
I could go for that right now.
I could go for that.
I need a little, I need something uplifting.
One last fact for the road, boys.
This will be the ultimate. Yes, the last.
Bring us back, Joe.
Yeah. Play us out, Joe. Yeah. Roll deep sea fact 4, Ruru.
Hey chums, this is Deep Sea Facts with Joe Vasky. I'm Joe Vasky. Over 70% of Earth's surface is covered in oceans. This makes our oceans a unique harborer of life. There are an estimated 2.2 million species in our oceans today. However, none of that will matter because in 1.5 billion years, increased solar luminosity will cause a runaway evaporation of the oceans, leaving the world a dry, barren, and mostly lifeless husk of its former self. I'm reminded of a Bruce Springsteen lyric from his acclaimed album Nebraska. He says, "Everything dies, baby, that's a fact." This has been Deep Sea Facts with Joe Vasky.
Wow. Speechless, really.
I mean, I feel better.
I feel better, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think I needed in order to lift my spirits.
Yeah. And
Well, things like that just make me so happy on the inside, when I hear things like that.
Right. Yeah. But don't let it,
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's not count our chickens. There's a little bit more.
That's right. But wait, there's more.
There's an epilogue to this epilogue.
Epilogue to the epilogue. Yeah, because now that the children of Hurin and Hurin are now all dead, you might think that's the end of the story, but this curse that Morgoth, put down, it trails off just a little bit longer.
Right, and this curse kind of creates a spur of the story that reaches out and connects kind of all three tales together.
It does, it's true.
So y'all remember the Nauglamir, right? The necklace of the dwarves?
Oh, yes, the most prized possession of the dwarves.
Of
yes.
Finrod, right? Yeah,
the one that Turin Hurin just threw at Thingol in insult.
Right, the very same. Well, Thingol, he had some big plans for this bad boy, right? Talk about thinking outside of the motherfucking box here. This kind of reminds me of the person that invented, like, the Double Down sandwich from KFC, remember?
Yeah.
The sandwich that just has no bread, it's just chicken.
Yeah, it's 2 pieces of fried chicken.
Like, cut out the middle. Cut out the middle, man. Get rid of the bread. 2 pieces of chicken, bacon, and cheese in the middle, right? That's what he does here. And he says, hey, let's put that goddamn Silmaril that Baron brought me and put it into the Nauglamir.
Yeah, taking one item from the Tale of Baron and Luthien and combining it with the other item from the Tale of the Children of Húrin to make one super item.
We called it during the review the Megazord of Bling, right, Trev?
Yeah, I love that.
Did you like that?
I love that.
Yeah.
So the dwarves, they were, down to help out with this because, Thingol, he needed some help. This was a dwarven necklace. He'd need some dwarven smiths.
Right.
But the moment they saw the Silmaril, they instantly started lusting for it, as is kind of, the curse of the Silmarils.
The nature of it, yeah.
And they wanted to take it.
Yeah, and then they agreed to do the task, but to bide their time to put hands on that jewel, right?
Yeah, they agree. Yeah. They wanted to buy it. They wanted more time to figure out how we're going to get this.
Yeah. And when the work was actually finished, Thingol, he went to place the jewel around his neck, right? Like, it's finally I can put it on. But the dwarves, they don't yield it. They don't give it up. They're like, not so fast, Mr. Thingol.
Takes a step back.
Mr.
Thingol. Yeah. They claim that the Nauglamir, they made that shit for Felagund.
Back in the day.
And since he is dead, they can now claim it back, right? If they have the right to claim it back. And I always thought that was funny because, like, fair enough. But the Silmaril's in it now, dog. Like, why do you claim... You know what I mean? That was always confused me about this.
Yeah, and the curse that sort of lies on the Nauglamir, just sort of residual from all of this stuff, from the sacking of Nargothrond and the dragon and the curse from Morgoth, it kind of drives Thingol to say some pretty proud and harsh things.
Yeah, this is a moment of weakness for my boy Thingol here. I know I've been talking him up the whole series, but he's got a little bit of a moment here. And Trevor's going to read his quote This is from the Silmarillion, chapter 22 of the Ruin of Doriath.
How do ye of uncouth race dare to demand aught of me, Elu Thingol, lord of Beleriand, whose life began by the waters of Cuivian and years uncounted ere the fathers of the stunted people awoke? And standing tall and proud among them, he bade them with shameful words, be gone unrequited out of Doriath. Then the lust of the dwarves was kindled to rage by the words of the king, and they rose up about him, and laid hands on him, and slew him as he stood.
Well, this brings about the end of the death of King Thingol as well.
Right, so
Just nothing good comes of anything.
What a gift, right? The gift just immediately kills you. Yeah, I love it.
And about how long after is this taking place from Hurin's demise?
It's a matter of years, because I think the first sacking of Doriath was in 504, I think. If I remember my years right.
It's a few years, I think.
But it's not a terribly long amount of time.
Not very long, yeah.
No.
So the dwarves, they take the Nauglamir with the Silmaril in it, and they try to book it back to the Forest of Regian, or through the Forest of Regian, back to their home, Nogrod.
Mm-hmm.
But in that forest, the elves of Doriath respond and kill all of the dwarves, except 2 that get away. And the elves, they reclaim the Nauglamir.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Unfortunately, they get all the way back, the 2 dwarves, they get all the way back to Nogrod, and they tell their story about how the king refused to pay them and then ordered them to be killed.
Yeah, they kind of give him like half of the story, like.
Yeah, they play it up in their favor, like, oh man, the king tried to kill us and take, take this work that belongs to us. And so naturally, all the dwarves in Nogrod are furious, like, oh my god, there was a fight and they killed some of our dwarves and they're trying to take oh my god, this is awful. They actually ask Belagos to help them basically go to war with Doriath.
With Doriath, yeah.
But,
which is funny, and Belagos refuses.
Yeah, their sister city.
Yeah, Belagos and Norgod do shit like they're always rolling deep
like
together.
Down the street from each other, basically.
Yeah, and they're like, bro, this is a bad idea. We are not going to help you. You're on your own.
Yeah, your guys already killed the king, and now you want to go sack the kingdom? Like, not a good idea. But they can't stop Nogrod, so.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, back in Doriath, Melian is beside herself with grief, of course.
Yeah, with the death of her husband.
And this causes her power to fade, and the girdle of Melian fails, which is kind of a big friggin' deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It leaves Doriath totally open to evil eyes and...
To everything.
You can just march in there now. Any Tom, Dick, and Harry can just march in there now.
So Melian also tells Mablung to send word to Beren and Luthien, because they're still alive at this time.
Yes,
they're still living out their reincarnated lives over in Osirian.
Yeah, in the land of the dead that live.
And so she says to Mablung, go send word to them about what's happening, and then she leaves the Middle-earth forever, passing back over the sea to Valinor, because she's got nothing left. Nothing left here.
She just goes and chills in the gardens of Lorien and is sad for the remainder of the story.
Yeah, she kind of like people do in Valinor. They kind of like recover from their grief.
Right. Yeah, and that's how she does. Yep.
Smart move on her part, I would say.
Yeah, get the fuck out of there, man. Get out of Middle Earth, dude.
It's going down. It's all downhill from here.
That's like my kids. Everything. If you're listening to this, things aren't going great in America right now. But my stepkids are EU citizens, so I'm always like, hey, get the fuck out. If it's bad enough, they can get out of here. Like that's if you have that ability to go back to Valinor, you go to Valinor. You know what I mean?
So we then get a nice big battle, because the Dwarves of Nogrod, they decide, they decide to send a huge force to invade Doriath, of course. They call this the Battle of the Thousand Caves.
Yeah, so with the girdle now gone, there was nothing to stop them, and they laid siege to Menegroth. And the dwarves are ultimately victorious, and they also, during this sacking, they slew Mablung before the doors of the treasury, and the dwarves, take back the Nauglamir.
Man, the real game of capture the flag going on.
Yeah, this Nauglamir with the Silmaril just keeps going back and forth.
Yeah, fucking Mablung, dude. That's after all of this cool shit that Mablung does throughout. We've had him in 2 of the tales now. He's in the Tale of Beren and Luthien as well, and he's in the Tale of Children of Húrin. And what does he get? He gets killed by the dwarves in front of the treasury.
Yeah, this sucks. He gets done in this way.
They done him dirty.
So news of all this does make it back to our heroes of our first tale, Beren and Luthien. They hear about all this. And Beren and their son Dior, they gather up some forces. They gather up some of the green elves of Osiriand there where they are, and they pursue these dwarves that have finished sacking Menegroth and are on their way home.
Right.
And that brings us to the Battle of Sarnathrad.
Right. And this is one of those things like this is one of those events that echoes throughout the Legendarium. This whole Silmaril exchange with the dwarves, and this is why still in the Third Age the dwarves and elves don't like each other.
Right.
Like this is really the event right here, and Sarnathrad is kind of the conclusion of that. But the dwarves, they're heavily laden with treasure, right? After the sacking of Doriath, Beren and Dior and the elves, they assault them while they're crossing River Gellion, right? And this was a place called Sarnathrad. Stony Ford in Sindarin.
So most of the dwarves in this battle are slain in the initial onslaught, but some of them escape into the foothills. But this is when the Ents show up. That's right.
Did you think
fighting Ents
that the Ents would show up in this story, you guys?
Love the Ents.
Yeah, so they kill off those stragglers, and they drive the dwarves into the woods, and it's said that none of them ever return to Nogrod.
Right.
Ever.
Yep.
And the Battle of Sarnathrad marks the last time that Beren ever fought in battle.
Right.
And fun fact, during this battle, Beren slew the Lord of Nogrod in single combat and recovered that Nauglamir with the Silmaril in it. That's the same Silmaril he got.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yep.
So when he lost his hand for?
Yep.
It all came back full circle.
Yeah, could you imagine that? Just like this fucking thing again. You know? Just like of all... he's come back from death. Beren has come back from across the sea, the halls of Mandos, the death, because of the goddamn jewel. And he looks down years later, right? Like he's living
like,
peacefully
this thing
off.
again.
Yeah, this fucking thing again, right?
We got an excerpt here about this from Chapter 22 of the Silmarillion of the Ruin of Doriath, read by Danny.
Then Beren gazed in wonder on the selfsame jewel of Feanor that he had cut from the Iron Crown, now shining set amid gold and gems by the cunning of the dwarves. And he washed it clean of blood in the waters of the river. And when all was finished, the treasure of Doriath was drowned in the river Ascar, and from that time the river was named anew Rothloriel, the Golden Bed. But Beren took the Nauglamir and returned to Tol Galen.
And once they get back with Tol Galen, with the Nauglamir, Beren and Luthien have it, and that at that point, that's where we're going to leave
That's
where we're going to leave it. So that's sort of the end of all of the bad things that come about from the Curse of the Children of Húrin. It's sort of the last bit with the Nauglamir. It seems a little bit out there, but it really is kind of like the last trailing end of that. Yeah. All those bad things culminating in this.
Yeah, it doesn't happen without Hurin bringing the Nauglamir back to Thingol, right?
Right.
So
and like the residual connected evil around the Nauglamir that causes the conflict with Thingol and the dwarves, and then the final battle of Sarnathrad. And you mentioned something earlier when we were talking. Because we were like, maybe them having it, Beren and Luthien having this item breaks the curse.
Right. It does seem kind of seem that way. And I was just thinking, I'm sitting here looking at the excerpt I just read, and I'm thinking it's weird that Tolkien mentioned that he washed it clean of blood in the waters of the river. Right? Is that maybe symbolic of the curse being washed away from the item?
Maybe because you even pointed out earlier, a couple episodes ago, that at one point Morgoth was legitimately worried that Turin might and could break the curse.
Yeah, if he became mighty enough. So, like, that leads us to believe that it is possible to overcome a curse with might and goodness and prowess, as it were. Right. So, yeah, maybe that's what's going on here. The goodness of the Silmaril and the intention of Beren and Luthien kind of clean this artifact, as it were. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I just want to give props to Morgoth real quick.
Sure. Praise out to the devil. Yeah, we love him.
Because he lets Hurin go, and then Hurin eventually causes the demise of Thingol and his kingdom somewhere he hasn't been able to infiltrate for the longest time.
And he never would have been able to.
And he doesn't have to send his own men. He gets the dwarves to do it for him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing about Morgoth and Sauron, too, is they thrive on disunion, right? And if you can get people to kill each other that shouldn't be killing each other, that's even better, right? even cooler for them.
Yeah, he did a great job.
Because as we learned, solidarity is a big theme throughout Tolkien, right? Like, we're always better off when we stick together, when we work together, when we celebrate our differences, right? All those things are in Tolkien, right? Like, let's do those things instead of fighting and killing each other. But that's what ends up happening in this part of the story.
Yeah.
It's
tragic, if not for Hurin. Yeah. Single-handedly just letting Hurin go not only causes like the sacking of Doriath, but it also brings about the fall of Gondolin, which we'll get to
in the next tale.
In the next story. Not next week. We got one more episode for you guys about the Children of Húrin. Yeah, this is just such a tragic tale.
Ooh,
well, at least we're now at the end of the narrative.
Yes. End of the narrative. Final thoughts, guys. We did it. We made it through this marathon of sadness.
We did it.
Good and sad one, as we like to say.
Proud of you guys.
A true tragedy. Honestly, legit, one of the saddest books I've ever read.
Yeah.
And I love reading sad books.
We all learn about like the classic Greek tragedies.
Yeah, which we learned a little bit about in episode 1
here. You can see some inspirations here and there from some other great tragedies, but this one just hits me in the gut every time. Every time.
I always tell people, like, when they think that like that Tolkien's stuff is like a little bit too vanilla or wholesome, I always point them to this story.
Yeah, that'll change their mind.
It changed their mind about how fucked up it can be, right?
Well, and I love the pacing of it, because like evil shit happens, but every now and then you get a sprinkle of like, oh, and then things were fine for a little while. And so you kind of get this moment of like, I don't know, chill or a bit of relief from all the drama.
Reprieve,
And then it comes back like full swing.
Oh yeah.
And it gets worse.
Inescapable.
And it just compiles and gets worse.
Yeah. Another thing about this series, I really love the deep sea facts with Joe Vasky, right?
Yeah, those were fun.
I don't know if you could tell, but it is a little bit of a troll on you guys that they are very weird and depressing in themselves. Like, right? Are they palate cleansers? We don't know, but we love them.
Not really.
You know?
It at least pulls you out of what you're thinking about.
Yeah.
Into something maybe a little more existential.
Meant to be like hilariously not actually happy facts.
Right, yeah, I don't think a single one of them is actually happy. They're all weird or depressing, and that's what Joe Vasky brings to the show, and thank you for being weird and depressing, Joe. We love you.
And if you guys couldn't tell, we actually had no idea what each fact was.
Yeah, me and Joe recorded those. You guys didn't even we're dropping those in like in post. So like these guys, we had through this whole recording process, we had no idea which ones were coming.
So our introductions and reactions to each deep sea fact is totally blank. We have no idea what the fact was.
So hopefully it's not offensive or anything. our reaction.
Honestly, it's a little extra funny just because it's not going to match. So
exactly,
totally,
exactly. Part of the joke, as it were.
Yeah.
So yeah, big thanks to Joe Vasky.
Big thanks to Joe. Always helping us. If you love KOT, you love Joe. You know what I mean? The Children of Húrin, also just want to say, is my personal favorite story in Tolkien, right? I feel it is because I heavily identify with Turin, because when life isn't going great, my early 20s, if you feel like every decision you make sometimes is awful and fucks you and your loved ones over, right? This is obviously probably a symptom of mental illness and you're not thinking straight, but it does feel this way, right? It feels like everything you do is bad. And if you have ever experienced that, you probably might like Turin, right? Like you might identify with this dude.
Yeah, relatable.
I think Turin is one of the more relatable characters in Tolkien, because a lot of these characters are very high and up there, like regal elves and all this stuff.
Yeah.
This dude is just a guy that's trying to make the best of a bad situation, and he's always trying to make the right decisions, even though he's like proud and impulsive, right?
Right, he's human.
Yeah, he's human.
He has those traits.
That's honestly one of the things that makes him so interesting.
Yeah.
It's just how humanly human he is compared to a lot of the other characters that you end up meeting.
Right. And like, how does a human react when the deck is stacked against them, right? Like he was, like they say, fucked from the start, right? Like Turin. There's no chance of him getting out of this one unscathed, right?
Yes, not at all.
Not at all.
Yeah, I also really loved this tale because this is one of the tales where we get a dragon as the main character. Like he has full dialogue, he makes choices, he even like does some really dark magic and casts some spells that really drive the plot. It's really cool. And this dragon doesn't even fly, and I think he's probably one of the most intimidating dragons in the whole legendary.
Attitude alone.
The only dragon I have to say is probably more intimidating than is probably Ancalagon, just because he's enormous. He's like the size of a mountain and he flies. But otherwise, Glaurung, man, he's something to be truly afraid of.
The real fucking deal. I mean, talk about like a good like underboss, right? Like for the story, because Morgoth is so cunning and evil, and his henchmen are as well, and Glaurung is probably the best of them, in my opinion.
Thinking of Glaurung as a mini boss in a dungeon just kind of seems to not do him enough credit,
right?
Personally. Yeah. Because he's the father of all dragons, right?
Yes.
He's
right?
certified badass.
He's the first
among dragon kind.
Certified freak, 7 days a week. Anyway, so I also, being a dwarf lover, I also loved this story because this story is so unique because it introduces the race of the petty dwarves. And this is the only time we ever hear about this random other race of petty dwarves that exists in Beleriand. I always thought that was just really cool.
That's kind of the end of them too,
building the world out more. Yeah, that's as much as we hear about him. As far as we know,
is allegedly the last of them.
Yeah, allegedly the last. Yeah. So apparently they die out in the first age.
Good riddance, I say.
Oh boy. I mean, if they were all like me,
if they're all like me, fuck them. That's what I say. Yeah. Also, on a more serious note, we like to keep things light and have fun here, but we have a little bit of, we talked about it in the beginning, but we want to reiterate it because it's very important to us, right?
Yeah, we have 3 characters in this story that unalive themselves, which is more than we get in any other story in Tolkien. I don't think any other story in Tolkien we even get an unalive situation like that, but...
they're sprinkled throughout, but like this one is heavy, right?
It's heavy.
It's multiple characters back to back, even.
Yes.
Right, and it's exactly. And all of us have been negatively affected by suicide in our lives, and we think the topic should be taken very seriously. And if you're having those kind of thoughts, please ask for help. If you're in the Twin Cities, there's a mental health urgent care in St. Paul. It's right off Uni, and it's on the east side. But I've been there. They're amazing. Check them out. And then we got a hotline.
We all need help sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you need a resource, there is an international hotline. You can call or text it. It's the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline at 988. Kind of like 911, but 988.
Right.
And according to the website we were looking at, like they can translate up to 240 different languages. So it doesn't matter who you are, where you are. It's free. They've got some rules, but it seems like an awesome gig.
Yeah. I was super happy to find this resource because we do have listeners all over the world, right? And I knew that in America we have the suicide hotline and everything, but like this is international, guys. So 240 languages. That's like basically every modern ass language, right? Like
it's a good resource to have in your arsenal. So we love you guys. Stay safe.
Yeah, stay safe out there. We know things aren't the greatest right now, and just stay up. You know what I mean?
But we'll be here with you to get through it. We'll be here the whole time. We've got quite a few episodes left on this
until
series.
They drag us to the dungeons. We'll be broadcasting this podcast.
Yeah, you've got 109 episodes of KOT you can work through at this time. Go distract yourself.
Yes. Distract. That is the key.
But next week, you'll have a 110th episode.
That's
110.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, next week is going to be episode 110. It's going to be our very last episode talking about the story of the Children of Húrin, right?
Yes. There's an awful lot of early versions, and like we said, it's based off the lay, so we're going to get into the lay a little bit. We're going to get into some early versions. We're going to learn some new fun names for people. You know how there's a billion names for everything?
Oh, yes.
Definitely on a lighter note than we've come to know so far.
Yeah, and we're also fun. We're going to talk about influences this story, because this a lot of Tolkien's favorite literary characters highly influenced the story of Turin. So we're going to be learning about that, guys. Stay tuned for all of that shit. But that's all we have for you today. Thank you for listening to KOT Podcasts. Please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts to stay up to date on new episodes. And please rate or give us a nice review. That would be really cool. We love reading those, and it lifts us up a little bit sometimes. And like we said, it's dark times, so give us something to lift us up, guys. Also, make sure you check out our new website, simply keepontolkien.com. This is a hub for all things KOT. Seriously, anything you need that has to do with this podcast will be there on the website.
I also want to throw out a big thank you to our patrons on Patreon. Subscribing on Patreon not only supports us, but can also unlock some exclusive content for you all. You can find that at patreon.com/KOT podcast. We really appreciate your support. We also, we can accommodate private one-time donations if, those subscription services aren't necessarily your speed. We understand. We have PayPal and other services. Just contact us on your favorite social media. We'll make it happen. We just really appreciate any support you're willing to give. Thank you.
And as a segue into that social media, you should definitely come by and check out our Discord. That's where we have most of our conversations with people. It's the best way to get in touch with us. You can ask us questions directly, et cetera, et cetera. It is the KOT social space.
We live on there.
We live on there.
We do, yeah. I mean, I'm on there every friggin' day. Friend of the show, Joe Vasky, who brought us our deep sea facts. He's on there all the friggin' time. He's a big Discord head. Just join it, man. It's so fucking cool.
Yeah, and it's probably like a little too late for you guys to join it by the time this episode comes out. But whenever we do like certain special episodes, we'll reach out to you guys and ask you to ask us questions or give us some curiosities you've been wondering about.
Yeah.
Like we do for our holiday special every year. So definitely go in there and get engaged with us. We would love that.
And don't forget to go check out the War of the Rohirrim movie. That just came out this past weekend. Given the way that time works, I cannot give my opinion on it right now, even though we definitely saw it. Even though it's technically out of this time and we totally saw it. Yeah,
it totally came out.
It totally came out.
Time, yeah.
So, given the magic of time, right now we're recording this pre-release. So,
but it will be out when this episode airs.
Yes, and we are still so excited to go see it. So make sure you guys have seen that.
We're going to watch it. We're also going to talk about it in one form or another. Just look forward to it.
Yes, we will be reviewing that. We're reacting to it. Look forward to it.
And, you could find that content when it comes out and more at the other places that we have social stuff like TikTok.
Yeah.
We're at keep_on_Tolkien_podcast.
Yeah, and I run the TikTok, and I'm having a fucking blast on there, and I'm meeting a lot of cool people. Shout out to Casey, we love you. That German Tolkien guy, we love you. Tolkien Toker, all cool people. Check those guys out.
We're still on X, formerly Twitter at KOT Podcast. You can find us on Facebook at Official Keep on Tolkien. We're also on Instagram at Keep on Tolkien Podcast. We also have a merch store if you are interested in sporting some cool KOT t-shirts and what have you. The website, as tradition, is keep-on-tolkien-podcast.tmail.com. But if you don't want to remember that or type that into your address bar, just go to keepontolkien.com, where you can find a link to that, all of the socials we just talked about. Everything. It is the major hub.
It is. Check that out, you guys. Well, I think this is finally it. We're finally coming to the end of the episode. I am Danny J.
And I am Joel N.
I am Trevor D.
And together we are...
Keep on Tolkien.
All right, you guys, this is a special one because if you remember, the translation of this is "Day shall come again," and those are the words of Hurin. And Hurin didn't really listen to those words, did he? As we learned. So let's all listen to the words of Hurin and say together, "Aure and Tulumva." They shall come again, guys. Hell yeah. Stay up, y'all.